Welcome to the Natural Parents Podcast, where we will cover all things faith, health, family, and wealth through a biblical perspective of putting things in life that matter most back into order. We're reminded of Matthew 6:33, where Jesus said, "But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all of these things shall be added to you." Join us each week as we focus on what truly matters most in this life and passing those values on to the next generation. This is the Natural Parents Podcast with Ryan and Abbie Hukin.
There is no better than here. Abbie, let's talk about 5 ways to slow life down, freeze a little bit of time, and live our best lives.
Yeah, I feel like this has been really just a good reminder for us, because this season of life that we are starting to come out of, which is really exciting, has been very focused on the future, because living in a camper with 3 kids and all the things that we have going, and anybody would, is difficult. And so we've been really focused on when we get to move in the house and everything. And something that we always talk about is like, okay, but then the kids are older. And it's like, okay, I don't want any of that. I just want to be in the house, but I don't want. And so it's just been a really good focus for us to really be like, okay, no, here is just as good as there.
If not better.
Yeah.
Right?
In the present.
The cliche thing to say, you hear all the time, is, oh, the joy is in the journey. This is so true.
It is true,
and you
have to focus on that.
We say all the time that when-then lifestyles will ruin every bit of joy you have out of a moment in life.
It'll completely
because, to your point, and to maybe some of the listeners' points, is I'm in a season of life right now that I want to rush through, right? We're ready for that next thing. We can see the next thing on the horizon, whatever it may be, whether it's moving out of a camper or into an actual home, moving to a different stage in business, elevating to another element in your career, adding another child to your family tree. Anything can be that next then thing. When this happens, then I'll be happy. When this happens, we'll slow down. When this happens, right, then X, Y, and Z will be quote unquote better.
And what happens is that it keeps going. You get your then, and you replace it then
with another win
again. And it's a vicious cycle. And so I think whenever you purposely change your mindset on that, and you really focus on being content with what you have right now, which honestly is a difficult thing to do whenever you are consumed with social media and other people's lives. And I was just listening to Ed Milet this morning, and he was talking about comparison. And obviously we know comparison is a thief of joy. And he's like, it literally creates emotions in you that are negative, because you see somebody's Friday night on social media and they're playing card games, and you immediately are like, well, I'm not playing a card game, and you compare it automatically, whether you want to or not. And that's what, truthfully, I have a hard time sometimes even sharing on social media, because I don't want anybody to feel like that, because there isn't anything better about what I'm doing than what you're doing. It's just you're watching what I'm doing and I'm watching what you're doing, and it's like, why can't that exist at the same time? And so I think that when we bring this to the front and we're conscious of that, it really helps.
Right. And I could tell some of you listening still not bought in, right? Yeah. You're saying no, but you don't know the season of life that I'm in. And so we're going to get into 5 steps of how to slow life down and enjoy the moment that you're in. But I'm telling you right now, before we can get into that, my goal is to get you to accept the mindset and to get the understanding that whatever you're in the middle of right now, it is just a set up. It's not a setback. It's a set up to whatever God has planned for you in the future. And you might need this thing, this element, this difficulty to develop the character in you that God needs for the blessing he's going to give you down the road. And so it doesn't matter, whatever it is. I don't mean to be rainbows, sunshine, and unicorns guy all the time. It's just that in life's most difficult, this is the Wonderful Life concept,
yes.
The movie, that hits so much harder when you're an adult with children who depend on you and all these different things. It's like that movie, we used to watch it all the time as kids. Mom wanted to watch it every Christmas. I was like, snooze fest, black and white movie, terrible, like, whatever. We watched it for the first time this year as adults with kids, and I was a mess.
Ryan was boo-hooing, which, I mean, yes, I was crying too, but he's just like a blubbery mess, and this is my first time ever watching it, and it was amazing.
So good. And so this life that we live, whatever you're in the middle of right now, it is the dream. Do you know how many times people tell me, like, I have so many interactions with people throughout a week, different people, and I say, oftentimes, as I enter into a room, hey, what's good today, or what's going on, or hey, what's up? And people tell me, living the dream. And I've come up with a candid response to which I respond, yours or somebody else's? Mm-hmm. And they always kind of laughingly say, somebody else's, or it's this, I got this one time. It's mine, but it's more of a nightmare, right? Like there's this funny things. And so truly, I believe that. It's a cliche thing that people say, living the dream. But I stopped you the other day as we were enduring a challenge on the farm or whatever. And I came over to you and I said, hey, this is it. And you're like, what? I said, the dream. Like, we're living it. Whatever it is, I'm telling you guys, you don't have to be all sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns to just know that whatever you're in is exactly where God needs you to be, and you're going to be better off for it, and whatever's coming next is going to be better because of that.
Yeah, so that's number one, accept mindset. There is no better than here. And what you focus on expands. And so to all of that, I think that basically what this could all be labeled as is gratitude, and finding the gratitude and focusing on that, because what you focus on expands. And so, people can roll their eyes at gratitude journals and all of that, but truly, like, if you are in a really, really hard season of life, or you're going through something hard, and you sit and you just force yourself to find what you're grateful for. We do this with our kids. If they're having a really hard time, or they're really mad, or they're, everything's going wrong, and truthfully, victim mindset, like, we don't play into that. We're like, hang on, let's just stop and think of 3 things that we're grateful for. And it completely turns their mood and their mindset around. Like, you can just see the shift and see them become more positive. So, number 1, accept mindset.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
That, deeper on that, sometimes the kids will try to just rattle off, mom, dad, siblings. Mom, dad,
nope, doesn't
brother.
count.
Like,
need
no
deeper
way.
than that.
And so, physiologically, when you're talking about it changes them, it's because, guys, for the science aspect of people out there, it is impossible to be in gratitude and anxiety at the same time. It's impossible to be in gratitude and fear at the same time. It's impossible to be in gratitude and frustration and anger and all these different emotions that we'll feel at the same time. Gratitude is so powerful, it actually changes the neural pathways in your brain. So whenever you stop, drop, and thank somebody, I guess, for what you're in the midst of.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it just changes the whole perspective that you have on it. So yeah, absolutely. Accepting the mindset, that is step 1. And I promise you, no matter what you're going through, we're here to help you. There's a community of people, someone I know very much so. Jesus loves you so much that he's doing this for your benefit. And so I want you to accept that, step into it, and see what's coming next.
Yes. So number 2, scheduling time to just be.
To be what?
Just be nothing. To nothingness.
Just be. Right?
And I feel like, especially if you're a stay-at-home mom and things, like, it's really important for that as well, because it feels like you go all the time. And so that can look like when your spouse gets home. I should say stay-at-home parent. Some dads stay home. So when your spouse gets home, to just schedule time to just be, but also making sure that, like, the other one gets that as well.
Sure. And, when I say be, it's hard for me because I'm so achievement oriented. I want to go and I want to do, and I don't want to sit still, and I got to get something done. And so what I put here in this note of scheduling time to be, like, put it on the calendar, put it in your day, in your week, to say, I'm actually going to schedule and check off this. You love lists and you love checking or striking through things. If you're that kind of person, schedule an opportunity for you to strike off and check mark and accomplish nothing. Like, I'm putting this in my calendar. I'm putting this on the schedule, the family calendar, whatever it is, for me to just have a time to be nothing and just slow down. Like, we consume and fill every second of every day that we have with something. Like, the human brain is not meant to process the number of inputs that we get in a day-to-day basis. Yes, it can do a lot, but the amount that we're getting today, all of the science supports that this is not what our brains are made for. And so if you want time to slow down, which all of us do, we want more time with our kids, but then I'm just as guilty of this as scrolling on social media. I'm like, here's a moment for me to just be for 5 minutes, but I'm not. I'm filling it with inputs of what's out there. And so eliminating that from our schedule can be so powerful for helping slow down time, because we all get the same 24 hours in a day, but how much of it are we just allowing our minds to be present in whatever we're in right now? It's sad. I'm not calling anybody out or doing anything like that. It's just we go to youth sporting events and I see parents not present at the sporting event. But then if you ask them, their greatest thing in life is, time and presence with my kid and all this kind of stuff. It's like, but the phones that we have in our lives, they're so inundating. So just not having that eliminate and steal our time can be so powerful.
And really, like, when was the last time that you were alone with your thoughts? I know that kind of seems scary. And so, like, I am that way. I'm like, okay, I have a moment. I need to be learning something, listening to something, consuming something that is going to make me a better mom, entrepreneur, whatever it may be. And sometimes, yes, that is good to do, but sometimes you just need to let your brain be and maybe journal, get all of it off of your brain, because you're right, we consume so much knowledge, but truly we don't retain as much because it is just flying in. And we have all this new information, and sometimes I have sat in awe of what older generations are able to remember and retain and tell us about gardening. Like, they know what this plant is, they know how to care for, and yes, some of that is because of time and repetition, but it's also because they learned it and they didn't have 100 other things being, filled in their brain of knowledge. Like, it was just a slower learning in a way, and I just feel like that really contributes to the way that I know for myself, I don't retain information as much because I have so much information coming in. And so I just think it's a really good way to just let your mind have a break, like we're working it out all of the time. Number 3 is to do something new on a regular basis. So I know that successful people have routines and creative people mix up those routines. And so I think that both can exist at the same time.
Yeah. So again, to go into the brain of things, you mentioned a second ago how the older generation retains things and just, shares with their knowledge and stuff that's actually contained up here. But how many times have you heard the older generation, and how much do you feel like now that we're getting, quote unquote, older than we were when we were younger, yes. Right? But life actually feels like it's speeding up. Well, they've done studies and research on this that shows that as we get older, our brains capture less content, if that makes sense. So like when you're experiencing something that you've done before, it's like, done this, been there, done that. And we start to develop these neural pathways. Well, when we're little, you might have felt like a day was 1,000 years. Yes. Like it was like, like how many times have our kids said, yes, this is taking forever, like to get somewhere. Well, it's because every single thing that they're seeing, it's the brain's first time for seeing it. Or a lot of it, right? Yes. A high percentage of it. And so the brain's like snapshot, learn, new thing. But our brains were like, been through this before.
Yeah.
So yes, we should have certain things that are routine to help us make our schedules more efficient, right? To optimize the time that we have in a day. At the same time, if you want to slow down time and you want to do this and be intentional with it with your kids, learn something new with them. Because when you capture a new thing, if you could do this daily, holy smokes, yours would feel like forever. But if you could at least do it on a regular, weekly, or maybe even a monthly basis where you just schedule time to say, hey kids, we're going to go and do something new today. I've never done it before. First time, you'll actually, neurologically speaking, slow down time because your brain will capture more of those moments. Whereas as we get older and we're just in the mundane, the monotony of the day-to-day life, where we're just like, you guys have done it. You've literally driven home or to work, and you're probably doing that right now, and you're like, dang, how did I get here?
Yes.
Right? It's because your brain is on autopilot. It's capturing nothing new because you've driven past that building 5,000 times over the last 10 years, and it's everything the same. You're just like, you just go on autopilot and you get home. But take a new route home.
Right.
Go the long way around. You want to slow down time, look at new things, take new stuff in. Like, again, neurologically speaking, from a physiological standpoint, you will slow down time because your brain will actually capture new things, and you'll remember more of that day because it wasn't on autopilot.
Yeah. That's good.
Pretty cool, huh?
It really is good, yeah. Number 4, stop multitasking. And this is hard for somebody who likes to get stuff done. Like, I can have dinner going, and do a million things at once, but truthfully, if you stop multitasking, you can do the one thing better and just enjoy it.
Yeah, everybody, the best correlation for this is a computer with a ton of tabs open, like a ton. It slows things down on each individual tab that you're on. If in your life you're trying to do multiple things, we've talked about this when we're present with the kids. We try to schedule time that's very specific where we're with the kids. I could work 24/7 and I wouldn't feel bad. I would actually feel somewhat energized and rejuvenated because I get benefit from that.
Like to create.
I like to do that kind of stuff. To the point where you've helped me realize, like, hey Ryan, like, whoo, like here we are, and so I appreciate that. But if I tried to do both, I would actually feel like less of a father and less of a success in my business because I'm literally trying to do both, and it's just straining on me. Mm-hmm. So yeah, absolutely stop multitasking. It's hard.
And it is hard whenever you're trying to, be parents and business owners at the same time. Like, a lot of times when you get home from the office, I'm like, hey, how was your day? Like asking them all these questions, but then it's like the kids want to see them and I'm trying to, have a serious conversation and they want to have dinner and they want to play with us. And I'm like, yes, I'm sorry, kids. Like, we will do this when you guys go to bed. But like, that's also what I tell them when they go to bed. If they creep out of their room or they're, not quite tired, I'm like, no, like we had our time. This is mom and dad's time. Like, we have to be intentional or else we'll just be left feeling unfulfilled in all of the areas. And Avery is funny enough, like on this topic, she will not multitask. And she even will say, Mom, I don't like doing 2 things at once. Like even this morning, I always fall into it. She's brushing her teeth and I'm like, here, let me just brush your hair. Like, why not speed it up? She's like, I don't like to do 2 things at once. I was like, oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Wow. We'll wait. And she can brush her own hair, but I'm like, oh shoot, if I brush her hair while she's brushing her teeth, we're done. And,
check, yeah, more things.
Exactly. And so I'm like, oh, I'm actually really grateful for that reminder because why am I rushing it? And thank you for wanting to be slow and intentional with that. So the 5th one, I think this really leads in really well, is family time. So scheduling that family time where there's no commitments, and if something falls during that time, you're like, oh, sorry, can't make it. And just having that non-negotiable. Setting
boundaries in our life. Again, to bring scripture into it, God did this for us when he set up and literally created the world. So he just happened to call it a Sabbath. And while the Sabbath's not a requirement under Christ, it is still a good practice that God put forth in our lives. And so it doesn't have to be like on a exact day of the week that you're always, I think it's good practice to have that set of a boundary in place. But whatever it looks like for you is having that scheduled time of saying we take nothing during this period of time because we are wholly focused on our family. And in those moments, again, because you're not multitasking, you're scheduling time to just be parents and a family and all these things. It kind of brings everything into culmination. It was just like, this is our time. And you will remember those days like, what do they call them? Core memories, right?
Yeah.
Like, or a glitter moment, or I said last night, it was like a freeze frame moment for me because it's just like, okay, I want to remember this forever. And focusing your attention on that to be able to do it, that's really what it's about.
That makes me think of the movie, I think it's actually a Disney movie, maybe, Inside Out, where there's like, it's the emotions and the core memories, and she's got like the islands of core memories and the happy and the sad and I don't know why that movie I love it. And my kids are like, yeah, it's okay. And I'm like, no, let's watch that one again.
You're on the other side of those core memories.
I am.
They're
and
literally forming them.
I love just the reminder that the movie gives me of like, this is our kids' childhood and like their core memories are being made. And so I'm a fuddy dud 99% of the time, but like, let's have some fun and create some good core memories. So all of these things are just good goals to have and good things to work towards. A good book recommendation is The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. that can be found down in our description. There'll be a link for it. And it's an amazing book that I don't think that you could just listen to one time. I believe, just as anything, society and the world, it just puts that hurry and that feeling and the feeling of comparison and all of that back in, that I think it's a good thing to listen to or read a few times, a year.
For sure. And it talks about, there is an aspect of formalizing a Sabbath for your family. Again, whatever that looks like for you. But I'm telling you guys, not one single person gets to the end of life and says, well, it went too slow, right? And so we all want more time, presence with our children, with our families, doing these things. So let's be intentional about it. Let's come up with some strategies and some ways to actually accomplish this, because I'm telling you, we live in a world where it will do everything it can to keep you from that. So join us. Let's do it together. Let's eliminate hurry from our lives and slow down time a little bit.
Yep. Hop in our Facebook group. Let us know how you are going to eliminate the hurry this week in your life.
From the bottom of our hearts, we want to thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with someone you know and leave a review. By doing so, we're able to grow this community of amazing people just like you and raise a generation of children that know God and do His will on earth. We'll see you next time.